I get emails from people telling me what a great thing this is. Lots of people will say, oh, such and such a star has become a Muslim. And you got the common people who are not students of the Qur'an following on a tangent. They're excited. My question is, if such individuals can become Muslims, how come your Islam is of no consequence to you? How come your Islam has done nothing for you, cannot resurrect you, or your family, or your friends, or your relative? It's just something to talk about at the dinner table, gossip about. And that's what we do a lot. Because to change would mean a different set of choices. So the Qur'an challenges you and me. وَإِن كُنْتُمْ فِي رَيْبٍ مِّمَّا نَزَّلْنَا عَلَى عَبْدِنَا. Meaning, whatever you see, this beloved Prophet stood up in the world and said that Allah revealed this book full of loftiness, you can test the veracity of it. You can test the genuineness of it. How you can test it? By living it. And see where it leads to backwardness, stagnation, retrogressiveness or exploitation, or it leads out of it. That's the acid test. The Quran further tells us, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا. And if you cannot bring anything equal to this divine loftiness that has prescribed norms and values for living life, for raising a family, for building a society, for excavating people out of dungeons and human darknesses. If you and I cannot bring a philosophy of life equal to the Qur'an or better than the Qur'an, and for a surety we will never be able to do it, then فَاتَّقُوا النَّارِ. Then be aware of the fire. Which fire? Unfortunately, in the Muslim communities, they only hear about the fire when they are dead. They hear there's a fire going to burn them up when they are dead. And they're very scared of the fire that will burn them up when they're dead. But they normally don't hear about the fire that's burning them when they're alive. They don't normally hear about the fire that is burning their children while they're alive. That is burning their children in front of their eyes, in front of their ears, in front of their own lives, in the city, in the country, in the world they're living in. Because why? They only believe in a fire that they will get burned with when they're dead. The Quran tells us about a fire that consumes human energy, human resources, human opportunities, human options, and destroys human life while humans are alive. And we should understand that the Quran places tremendous emphasis not on people when they are dead. Muslims place a lot of emphasis on people when they are dead. And they place the least emphasis on people when they are alive. You can check this out yourself if you're living in a human society where there are Muslims. The average Muslim has no plan to work with his Muslim colleague or Muslim brothers or sisters to build a better tomorrow. But the average Muslim will turn out in large numbers when somebody is dead to read what is known as janazah. What we need to understand is that this Quran is all about enhancing the living and removing the dead structures from the living. so that life can be meaningfully spent and utilized. So the Qur'an tells us, وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا. And if you cannot bring a philosophy equal to the divine philosophy, وَلَن تَفْعَلُوا. And don't be foolish. You can never do that. But it's your challenge. Try it out. You don't live by the Qur'an. You don't live by divine standards. By which standards do you live? Bring your standards to the table. فَاتَّقُوا النَّارِ. The Qur'an tells us about نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةِ. نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةِ. وَيْلٌ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ الَّذِي جَمَعَ مَالًا وَعَدَّدَهُ يَحْسَبُ أَنَّ مَالَهُ أَخْلَدَهُ كَلَّا لَيُنبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ. Such human beings who only have time to acquire the materialistic articles of life and take pride that I have accumulated this and I've accumulated that, and does not take pride in the lofty values that are meant to be instilled in himself and herself and in their children and in their relatives and in their friends and in their world. كَلَّا لَيُنبَذَنَّ فِي الْحُطَمَةِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ. And they'll be thrown into something blazing. And what you think we thought was blazing, Muslims think that the blazing fire is when they're dead. But they don't see the fire that is raging in human society, that is destroying them every day, destroying the children, destroying the family, producing what? وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا الْحُطَمَةِ نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةِ. The fire of Allah. نَارُ اللَّهِ الْمُوقَدَةِ. The fire of Allah that has been kindled by the life that you and I choose to live. By the life that you and I choose or allow our children to live, because we didn't do anything much. We didn't do anything much to hold them from being consumed by this fire. We think their education and their professionalism is so great, so we can't talk to them anymore. We can't touch them anymore. We can't restrict them anymore. Oh, they are so superbly professional. We have forgotten and we have reneged on our responsibilities as parents. نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة. That which climbs upon the human heart and the human mind and the human emotion. That's what we need to understand, brothers and sisters. Let us sit back and see what life we are living. What life we are ushering our children into. I told you Jesus Christ is reported to have said, what sense does it make if a man gaineth the world and loseth his soul in the bargain? We have to ask ourselves, what's the purpose of this life? Are we going to be judged on how much material acquisition we have? We know it's necessary to have material power. God does not prescribe that we should be weak. The Qur'an does not tell us that we should be weak economically. The Qur'an does not tell us that we should be weak politically. The Qur'an does not encourage us to be weak socially. The Qur'an does not encourage us to be weak intellectually. The Qur'an teaches us that nature is endowed with strength. And all the creatures require strength. That is what is known as energy. And that is why each creature has its own way prescribed for it to to access energy from the environment.